Lucy, my friend, here in conversation. Now, this is one of these things that you do, isn't it? And you think like such a good idea at the time, and then afterwards you kind of like, what the hell? It's like opening up your kimono. Is that the right phrase? The type of conversations we normally have. Are they?
I'm showing no one what's under my kimono today. Thank you very much.
It's not that type of show.
No.
You never know.
I don't want to scare people.
So I'm really, really thankful for you being here. I appreciate you every day of the year, but I especially appreciate you this week as I'm, running this event, celebrating women in business. There aren't very many of us in the UK or globally, so we have to stick together, don't we? Me and you were so happy when we met each other. I mean, I know it took you a while to kind of decide how intimate you wanted to get with me. And
that was because you were technically my stalker to start with.
Such a good story. We have to talk about that. But I really, really appreciate you being here. You've been kind of like pushing me as well, sometimes gently and sometimes not so gently, to be running an event like this for how long? Like quite
a while.
And I've been like, maybe, or, I might have been crying about it and saying any myriad of reasons why I wasn't going to do it. But I am finally doing it. So it feels really right as well that you're here to have a conversation, to dance around a whole load of different stuff. And, my intention, both with running this event this week and also with this concept of the greenhouse more generally, and probably everything I do in my business, is about bringing people together, connecting people, having more powerful conversations, having, I guess, a deeper conversation around, well, if it's in a business context, then, the good, the bad, the ugly. And I think that's where I want to go with some of our conversation today, because we're both kind of veterans in business, aren't we?
Yeah. As long as this isn't a segue into referring to me as the ugly part of this, then that's fine.
Oh, no, never. But, you're blonde. Blondes have more fun, do they? I'm always trying to prove that brunettes have more fun, but...
I think you and I both know I am a brunette. I just have a very talented hairdresser.
Why are you here? Okay, you want to go straight into confessions. All right. We're straight to the truth, are we? She is actually a brunette. Okay, so let's just set the scene. Okay, let's just put a little bio, but just for people that don't know you, how can that be? But just give us a little potted version of, your life, particularly as a business owner, right? Because that's what we're talking about. Like when you set up your business, what it was originally, what it's changed into, maybe just, things you love about business. Just give us a few minutes. The world according to Lucy.
So I started my business in 2005, which is 15 years ago, isn't it? She says, doing the maths.
When you were just leaving school?
Yeah, that's right, when I was 12. So I set up my business. When I first set up my business, I'd been waiting to set up a business for a while because I always knew I wanted to run my own business. My background's in marketing and sales, and more marketing than sales, but a bit of everything. I narrowly escaped getting proper jobs after uni of doing, most of my friends went and did kind of, graduate recruitment and went and did kind of big grown-up proper jobs. And I did sales and marketing, kind of finding my way through it. So I always worked for that smaller size of company where you ended up doing more than one thing. So it was, always commercial, always forward-facing, always about messaging, what to say to people, that kind of stuff. And I knew when I started my business that that was about me doing things my way, because I was often frustrated at how things were done or what I wasn't allowed to do and things like that. I've had some great jobs where I've been given kind of free rein. In fact, I left my last job because I had free rein for 2 or 3 years. I'd really helped grow a business, and then they were bought. So we'd gone from 2 to 7 million turnover in 2 to 3 years. I'd grown my team from 1.5 people, part-time, not a half a person, obviously, and up to 10 people. And so, and then we got bought by a company where my role changed from basically doing what I felt was right, running things the way I wanted to do it, to, just I had to report into someone who had to report into someone else who reported into the board, who reported into venture capitalists, and it was just a big yawn. Whereas my sort of meetings with my boss used to be like, so I'm going to do this, this and this, and it sounds good, carry on. You know, as long as you're getting the results, as long as you're doing what you're good at, you know, that's fine. And so that's when I decided to set up my own business. I had been waiting to see if I'd get a big idea. I have to be honest with you. I kept thinking I was going to have a eureka moment of like, oh, I'm going to invent this, or I'm going to come up with this new thing, and that's my business.
We're still waiting.
We're still waiting. No, but we are.
We want to talk about that, don't we?
That's kind of the point. And I figured if I was going to keep waiting for that, when was that moment going to happen? And also, I'm not sure I'm an inventor. I'm not sure I'm that person. But what I wanted to do was work for me and do things my way and work the way I wanted to work. So that kind of got brought to a head by now being in a role that I didn't want to be in. And, you know, having the opportunity to leave that role, she says, compromise agreement, I think is the technical term, with enough money that would keep me going for a little while I could just have a go at doing my own thing. So I did
This is really interesting, isn't it? Because I wonder how many women actually only take the plunge into entrepreneurship when they're kind of hushed, I guess, out of employment. And we saw since the recession, it's one of the stats we talked about earlier in the week, you know, a lot of people starting up in business through necessity.
Yeah.
Rather than their passion. And I think this comes on to something really important about what you do, is that many women have a sense of what their passion in business would be, but because they're doing a business primarily from necessity, they start doing things in their business and then carry on doing things that are more about their comfort zone. So they're more about, I can sell this, I know how to do this.
Exactly what I did.
People seem to want to buy it. It's not really making me happy, but, you know, right, so that's
exactly what I did. I literally stopped doing my job as marketing manager for a software company, and I became a marketing consultant, which is basically being a marketing manager for software companies. And I got, you know, a handful of clients on retainers really quickly. I think I got the first one within like 6 weeks, the next one within like 2 months, and then I think it was after about 3 or 4 months I was then earning more money than I'd earned in my job. And I wasn't working every single day. It was like, I was doing a set number of days a month.
I sense in what you're saying, sort of a sense of frustration now, because you're so much further along the line and you're like, oh, you know, blah, blah, blah. But actually, there's a lot to celebrate in that.
But that, I mean, at the time, it was
foundation early on.
Oh, yeah, I think I've made 6 figures in the first year, if not, you know, just after. It wasn't, yeah, and it was essentially, and that's not what I'd been paid in my job at that time. And, you know, and within 9 months, my husband came to join the business because he's a web designer and graphic designer. And I kept giving him loads of projects to do on the weekends and the evening for my clients because 2 reasons. One, I was like, well, I'm going to have to give it to someone. So why don't we have that money? Just from pure economical reasons. But also, I knew he'd do a good job. And it was easier for me to liaise with someone who understood what I was after than it was to go out to another agency.
Being under your feet at the weekend, so it kept him out of trouble.
This is pre-children when we had more time on our hands. But that was, you know, and so that just happened really quickly and really easy. And I did that for a while, you know. However, things I discovered, you know, the plus points of that were I could do all the bits of my job I used to like, which was actually doing the marketing, whereas I'd become a manager, which meant I spent a lot of my time not actually doing marketing, but managing other people to do marketing, some of whom didn't do it as well as me, so that never made a lot of sense to me. Anyway, then also I could work when I wanted. I could, you know, my time was technically my own. I could, you know, plan holidays or go out for an hour and not have to get someone's permission and that type of thing. So I had that flexibility up to a point and freedom. But what I also discovered is when you run a consulting business like that, where you become, you know, an outsourced marketing department or resource, is each of your clients thinks you're the only person that they work for. So even though they know that contractually they're only paying for, you know, 2 days a week or 10 days a month or 5 days a month or whatever they're paying for, as far as they're concerned, you are available to them all of the time. And so it kind of went from having one job to having, you know, 4 or 5 jobs, because that's how it felt.
That's really interesting as well, because that mindset switch from being an employee, and then when you're contracting services in, or even if you're selling products to a company, but if you've still got some sort of an employee mindset around it, you tend to, be at the beck and call, or think that you have to jump every single time, instead of taking a more powerful business owner focused approach to that you're delivering an outcome, or you're delivering a fixed price.
Absolutely. Even down to how I worked out my rates at the beginning. It was very much like, right, this is what I got paid in my job, and this is kind of the pay range that someone of my experience would get paid. So let me add, I was savvy enough to at least add on some more for that. So I'll add on a bit more to cover, got to pay my own tax and all my NI and all the other stuff that you have to think about. And so I did round it up, but then I literally divided it into a day rate.
Yeah, I'm smiling.
And I still thought in time.
I know we've got Alice who's live on the call, and I remember having a very similar conversation with her just a few months ago, because her business is quite new, and she's starting to take on clients, and she was having this conversation around, well, how much do I charge? Like, these are new services. I know I'm going to be good and I'm going to deliver a good, but what's the balance between having to prove yourself with a new customer, or basing your pricing based on the transformation and the impact they're going to have? And that's probably a conversation for another day, because it goes into such a deep meandering, I keep using it, but a meandering topic around the value that you add, the transformation that you make into clients' lives or businesses, and also like you deeply knowing your worth as an individual, as a business.
And also, it's then part of that is wrapped up in working with the right clients who then understand that that's different to just paying someone. So it's almost they're an employee mindset as well as you. So you've got to meet in the middle, where you're thinking, well, you're actually paying me for my expertise, and it might only take me 3 hours to sort this out, but that might save you 6 months or a year of work, or you might never have worked it out. Whereas you pay me for 3 hours, even if it's £3,000, that's solving you a huge problem that you didn't realize. So you've got to have clients that meet you at that point. Obviously I've moved on from the day rate and the hourly rate, but I still remember my very first sales meeting with someone who I'd known through my network for years. In fact, they always used to have the exhibition stand next to us at the big exhibitions we used to do, and he would always be like, oh, come work for me, and I was like, no, I have a job. And I clearly remember the meeting and sitting there thinking, when do I bring up how much? And it was a lunch meeting, so like the whole meal, and I'm just like, I can't relax until I've had that conversation.
What I love about that story as well is the sense of when we're stuck in that thought, which is becoming preoccupied, we're not even really listening to what the person's saying either. And this happens so often with business owners, because we're constantly learning and we're constantly trying to, I think, preempt and see the next move, because we're in this curious learning mode all the time. It's really then, how do we just stay present and just be okay with the fact that we don't know all of the answers in that
and also be okay with the fact they might say no. I think that's something you learn as a business owner. When I started, honestly, if someone had a work that needed doing, I would say yes to it. And I think I speak to clients all the time, people I work with and advise, and you do, there is that stage when you start out a business where you say yes to everything, and that usually doesn't work out all that well, because
let's just test that for a moment then, because I wanted to dig into your marketing expertise a little bit. But really, in terms of building a viable business in the early years, you focused almost solely on selling, don't you?
Yes.
And honing your selling skills. We can't get away from that. But there's a difference between selling to the right people and selling the right products, to just bloody selling anything and then being stuck delivering it
and creating a mess usually.
You being in a vicious cycle of, if you get successful with selling that stuff, that's great, but then you've got to deliver it. And I see so many business owners in the early years, particularly, I'm going to get onto our pet hates here, aren't we? But particularly when they're following formulas around, do these things in your business like the things we particularly hate are like going to Facebook groups and post randomly.
Yeah.
You know, put these posts up on your Facebook page and get really vulnerable and tell, you know, basically get your innards on display, because that'll help you get clients. The problem is sometimes it does, because you know, that's the way marketing works, and you can start getting clients. But if you haven't actually got clear about what you want to offer those customers, or the quality of your product,
what are you really good at delivering?
Yeah. And well, I mean, I suppose you don't find out what you're really good at delivering until you've delivered it a few times. But if you're over here delivering stuff that you're good at but you don't really care about, then you also don't get time to explore and get curious about the things that you really would love to be.
Exactly. And that's, I mean, that's what I ended up doing. Is I said, you know, you say yes to everything. The smart thing to do is to have some kind of time limit or boundary on that. Okay, I'm going to say yes to everything until I get to, you know, this level of income or this capacity, and hopefully save enough it, but review it all as well and go, actually, out of the clients I have, which ones do I enjoy working with most? Okay, I need more of those ones. What is it about that? Is it the type of work? Is it the type of client? Is it, you know, is it something as simple as the location, or is it that they just pay on time, or is it that, you know, they thank you for the work you do? It can be as simple as, you know, values-based stuff as that, rather than just the work you're doing. So, you know, that's important as well, but it's also where you know you're adding the most value. I mean, ideally you want that perfect intersection of what do I really enjoy doing, where am I adding the most value, and what am I getting paid for, and, you know, all wrapped up in a nice bubble of working with people you actually like working with.
Yeah, which sounds incredibly simple when we just throw it out there like that, but it's really not simple, is it? And it's an ongoing kind of journey and a challenge and an evolution. And because, as I was saying in workshop 1 yesterday, like my absolute intention with both running this event and with what happens later in the greenhouse, and then the work I do genuinely, is about helping women not to give up in business. If it's right for them, because for some people, they take the leap into entrepreneurship, it's not right for them, go back to corp, fine. But what we want is for you to have explored as many of the angles and have created time and space for you to play into that intersection around passion, purpose, profit, and be there long enough to get into momentum. And then, even when you've experienced momentum, to know that there's going to be more shit that's going to come.
Oh yeah, and I backed myself into a few corners. Like, I've genuinely backed myself into corners that I didn't want to get. Yeah, shut up. You know very well. There are corners you don't know any good lawyers to help you. Some of them haven't needed a lawyer, but some of them have. And some of them have been being shoved into corners. Anyway, that's a whole other story. But you know, you get to that place, and I got to a point with that phase of my business where I was technically selling more days than there were. So I was having to outsource some bits and pieces, and, you know, and that's the agency model, and there's nothing wrong with that, but I'm selling more days in a month than there actually are. So I'm having to outsource some writing and outsource some bits and pieces, which is absolutely fine. And it wasn't underhand. Obviously, clients knew that I had other resources available to me, but then I was at capacity. And then what do? Do you get rid of a client to reduce capacity? But then, of course, you get used to earning that amount of money. And so, you know, and I did that model for 2 or 3 years. I got out of that corner by having a child. So
extreme. We are not recommending that as a strategy generally.
No, to be fair, I did carry on with that model while I was pregnant. Obviously, I had to put my hours down a little bit. But there came a point where I actually got out of that because one of the clients offered me a full-time job. That's how I got out of that corner. So one of the clients became so interesting and so important for me. And this was another thing as well. It's like, this was very early on. I'd only been running my own business. I think it was 2007, 2008. So I'd only been, you know, running my consulting business for 2-3 years. When one of the clients who I was doing consulting with asked me to go full-time for them, that was Xero accounting software. So I started off consulting with them, and then, you know, they were being asked to employ someone, and they didn't want to employ someone else because I think I did about 6 months as consulting, and they were like, well, we want you to do the job, but it has to be a job. So, but by that time I had got to a point where I felt I'd done everything with the other clients that I could do that was transformative and changing and all the exciting stuff, and it had become more routine, which isn't my where I get excited. You know, some people like the kind of the routine stuff and the keeping things going. I like the change and the shaking things up and the auditing, the review, and making new plans, and that has more excitement for me. So actually it was okay for me to then move into that full time, and it was actually coming out of the end of that lasted for another year, I think, and then, you know, that business changed, and so I went back into consulting again.
Let me just, because you're covering a lot of ground here and you talk almost as fast as me, which is saying something. So let's just pause for a moment, because some of the people in the group might be earlier in their business. Some people actually are only just thinking about setting up in business. Some of them are in the early years. And as I say, like me and you have been in business for a long time. Like I'm 11 years, you're what, 13? 15 years. And a hell of a lot has changed, both within our own businesses, obviously also within the external landscape. Like the rise of technology has been extreme through that time, the rise of entrepreneurship for women, we're talking about this week. And what I want people to really, I guess, when they're leaning into this conversation, was also around this flavour of the importance of really strong friendships, supportive friendships in business, whether male, female, it's not about gender, but it's about being able to go deep and be supported and feel like normal in the struggles that you have, and have someone to celebrate with. Because what we're also going to be talking about this week with Archana, who's the third of our Charlie's Angels trio, as we call ourselves, but she's all on the finance side. And I really want to dive into the question of, like, do women lack ambition? And if the answer to that is no, which I believe it is, but why are we not voicing that ambition, like, loud enough or clear enough? It's certainly not in the same way as men do, right? It's almost like we're villainized. So with that in mind, you know, you and I met in a high-end mastermind, as they would call it. Yeah. What, 4 years ago, 5 years ago?
Yeah, 4 or 5 years ago.
Bless my lucky stars that we did. We both paid a lot of money to be in that mastermind, and you know, I've been heard to say since that if the only thing I got out of it was meeting you, that's return on value for money. Oh. It's true, because it is priceless having good friendships. So the story you were alluding to earlier, though, is before I joined the mastermind, I actually knew nobody. Before I joined that mastermind, I just knew that I deeply craved these powerful female friendships in business, and I didn't have them. And I did a bit of research, who's this, who's that, and, you know, you were joining, and you'd written the book, Find Your Thing, at the time. I really want to write a book. I'm still, here's what I made earlier.
Props.
And as I was traveling, I think down to our first journey together, because we used to do journeys in this mastermind. I think we were going on the Orient Express for that first journey, and I was in WH Smith, and your book was there, like, at the time in the top 10 bestsellers or whatever, and I was like, it's an omen. But when I came to speak to you at the mastermind, like, you clearly just thought I was a stalker, because I was like gripping onto your book, going, you've written a book, you're so amazing. Like, I love it. Can you help me find my thing? I was probably saying to you.
Yeah. To be fair, the stalking got quite bad because we were then roommates for that.
We were roommates, and you were not happy about having a roommate, full stop. You were like,
sharing. I don't need sharing rooms.
Why are we sharing rooms? I don't even know these women. Well, you did know some of the women. You didn't even want to share with the ones you knew, did you? You were like, I just want to put my pajamas on, do my stuff in private, like, which we had to deal with. But actually, did we change your mind through that? Because
I did, because then you and I had some fun adventures on that just it's the usual kind of British thing, isn't it? Of you know, bonding through adversity, and just.
I think we were a bit like the naughty kids at the back sometimes.
We were properly the naughty kids, yeah. Which is always a bonding experience, isn't it?
But the fun of that as well was really important, because yes, we were all there to voice our ambition and look at growing our businesses and, you know, all of that. And actually one of the most beautiful things that came out of it, not just from my friendship from you, was just really leaning into, how do I get more bloody fun into my business? Like, I'm here with this successful multi-six-figure business, like, on paper it's, you know, doing all the things, tick, 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 tick. I'm using all my corporate experience, and inside I just felt dead, like, you know, for want of a better word. You know, it wasn't
because you take on everything, don't you? Like, that's the thing when you work in a business. I think also I forget this is going to make me sound really big-headed. It's not the intention, but I forget how much I know about business, and I forget how much most people who start a business don't know about business. So to put it in context, my favourite subject at school was economics. I appreciate that that's quite niche for a lot of people, but I love business. I love the mechanics of business. I've always loved how markets work, demand and supply. I love marketing. I've always loved the whole thing around pricing. So I did my degree in economics. I went and did an MBA because I needed more fun in business. So I've learned all the elements of business. My dad's an accountant. I've worked for accounting software companies. I understand the financial side of business. I actually know what happens on a profit and loss account and a balance sheet, and all those things that I forget are a huge part of business education. So the main skills you need when running a business are being able to market, being able to sell, and being able to account for that, to understand the money stuff and the financial side of things, and to bring that all together, plus being good at whatever it is that you make or you sell.
Can I just clarify in there though that, and I'm sure you do believe this, that if you come into business and you're not already skilled in sales, marketing, finance, or whatever, that does not hold you back, because growth mindset, and we can learn those things. In fact,
you learn all those things
are quite easy to learn as long as you get the right trusted person to guide you, which unfortunately, in my opinion, is one of the problems for women in business at the moment, that those that are out there marketing and shouting the loudest about the skills and what they can offer are also not necessarily the most trusted people in the space. And it's hard, especially for women, to know exactly where to go to get that expertise that they can trust.
Completely. And I think it's something that I only realised when further down in my business journey, I stopped working with bigger corporates and doing consulting like that, and started working with smaller business owners who are brilliant at what they did, whatever their qualification or whatever their skill was, or whether they were a coach or a therapist or a lawyer or an accountant or whatever, they were qualified in the thing, and then they were mostly selling that as a service. I would be surprised at how much they didn't know about those, what I would kind of, I don't know, put them under like commercial skills, if you like. But then I thought, well, I know that because that was part of my experience and my job role. And you're right, you can learn those things really easy. And most of those are very straightforward. And like, actually,
you're hitting on something really important about like our generation though, like, because what we're seeing is lots of millennials coming through not worrying at all about those type of skills. I mean, lots of them are like perhaps not even going to university, maybe not even going to further education, they're just going straight into entrepreneurship, like headlong in, and many of them making a great success out of it because they're kind of selling marketing without even realizing. They're just like kind of a beautiful thing, really. They're just going out serving and have this level of self-belief because they've not been battered by life experience and corporate.
Yeah, but also they have grown up in an environment where, look, at the end of the day, marketing is just having conversations with the right people at the right time. It's about showing up, it's about being visible, it's about presenting yourself. Now, if you've grown up with social media, you've been used to presenting yourself and being visible and showing up every day. And so that just is, feels an easy translation into promoting yourself for your business. It's like you've been promoting yourself, whether that was for dating or whether it was just for friendship or just here's what I'm getting up to in my life or whatever. And so to translate that into showing up and being visible in your business is not a big step. But for those of us who haven't grown up in that environment, it can feel very uncomfortable.
Really?
And you might not want to do that.
So I've got a bit of a bee in my bonnet about all this, as you know. So, mother to two young girls, don't really want them on devices very much. By the time they hit their teenage years, I'm going to have limited opportunity to impact that. And I think technology is both a good and a bad thing. But yes, this generation is coming through, getting used to being on social media and showing themselves, but they're not necessarily showing all of them, right? What we know about social media.
Very filtered.
Yeah, or there might be extremes where actually like there's sort of misery and cry for help on social media, which are equally frightening, but there doesn't seem to be that genuine connection. This has always been my problem with online business, because I'm really well, you know, I'm like,
yeah. Well, you and I have conducted
conversations.
You and I both grew our businesses through, my consulting business was through people that I knew in real life, that I'd met at events, that I knew within my network. They were people that I'd, worked with, and that's how I met new people. And then I'd take referrals, and then, the irony of my marketing consultancy is the whole business was based on networking and referrals. I did zero marketing for my own business.
I remember me and you having this conversation, because I was like, oh, you do marketing, I don't even really know what that is, and you were like, but you've built this like massive business through, and I was like, yeah, but I've never been to a trade show or like printed a banner, or like all of my work comes through recommendation and referral, and you were just laughing and you were like, that is marketing. Like the more happy clients you've got, that is the best. And I was like, is it? Oh yeah, I've got lots of those. Like,
so going back 100 years, so I worked for software companies. So when I did my MBA, I did my whole project on what is the best, what's the most effective lead source, like, what's the best return you can get on your marketing spend. And I interviewed all the marketing managers and directors from companies from, small independent software companies up through to like SAP and Microsoft and Sage and people like that. And I interviewed all of them. Also, that was then helpful for me then when I started my consultancy, let's be honest. I then knew all the marketing directors in my industry, handy. But I interviewed them all, and I put all the research together, and they were really useful. And some of them were spending huge amounts of money on print advertising at the time, and even online advertising was in its infancy, and trade shows, exhibitions, and still the top marketing was referrals and word of mouth.
And I think,
now, don't get me wrong, you can formalize that and make it work better in your business by,
I want to really pause on that point for people that are going to listen to this on replay as well, because as I say, I'm conscious that, and the people I want to help are people that are starting out in business, they've got established, maybe seen some success, and they want to go to the next level. And I think one of the most important messages that we are able to kind of communicate is this concept of just one person at a time, you are helping one person at a time. That's how we get momentum, because the trend in online business seems to be like, let's spread our net really wide, and then sort of lure them in. And my bugbear then is that you lure them in through whatever clever thing, but then do you actually deliver an exceptional customer promise to them once you've got them? Like, are they having a transformative experience with your products or your services? And also the fact that in terms of sustainability of a business, much of it comes from repeat business. Just jam on that a little bit for me, because I know you've got people in your world who you've kind of, they've been your clients on and off for years, and so have I. We have clients that they just come back, don't they? They might get what they need for a while, they go off, they'll obviously refer you to another new people, which is brilliant, thanks very much. That wouldn't happen if you're just following the formulas for constantly luring in new people and really the numbers thing is something that I have this conversation so often with people that I work with, because they've been exposed to, I need to do this massive launch, like I need to get hundreds of people in a Facebook group, or I need to have 1,000 people on my mailing list, and then I'm going to make this big offer, and then I'm going to do that. And then I have a conversation with them, and I'm like, okay, but what are you selling? And it turns out to be something, we work through the numbers. It's like, so actually you only need 3 clients a month because they're going to pay you this amount of money, and that's actually all you can handle, or it's 10 clients, or the numbers are always so much smaller. Now, this isn't to go against, having big ambitions and wanting to grow a big business, but when you have a business and you know the numbers that you need to hit your own income goals or your service delivery or whatever you can do, if you know you can only work with 5 clients really well in a month, you don't need 5,000 people in a Facebook group that's taking up all of your time. You need to have, well, depending how good you are at sales conversations, if you're really good at sales conversations, you need 5. If you're okay at sales conversations, you need 10 people to talk to. If you're not bad at them, 15, maybe 20 people in a month to have a conversation with to get those 5 clients. That is a totally different take on your marketing, your activity, what you need to do. You could go and speak at one event
and there be, 20 people in that audience, and 5 of them afterwards then want to work with you, that's the equivalent of having the sales conversation with 20 people, and then you get your 5 clients. It's just.
And I'm going to pick you up on your language, because I know you deeply that isn't what you mean. You're just using the industry language, but also this concept of get more clients, hit your targets, make more money. Like, as women, like, I think some of that language is what turns us off, and we use it because it's universally accepted, and I do it too. But actually, when you're coming from a safe place of service, it's not about getting more clients. You want to do work that's meaningful.
Yeah, you want to work with 5 new people. Yeah, you want to change 5 people's businesses. You want to have that outcome. But
yeah, you want to work with 5 amazing, incredible clients who, are going to use your products, or they're going to access your services, and then they're going to have, an impact, a positive impact in their own lives and businesses, and you're going to feel amazing. And the exchange of money, the reciprocal exchange of energy around that transaction is so different.
Yeah.
When you're like, I'm trying to get some clients over here, and I don't really know.
Yeah, no, I mean, this is purely like, I'm just thinking like this is a demonstration in numbers where people get obsessed with, having these big lists. Like, if you just look at the mechanics of what do you need to make your business work for you, who is it you want to work with, and how do you want to work with them, and also not being afraid to go quality over quantity. I think that is such a bugbear of both of ours. Is sometimes it's okay to turn around and go, actually, I'm just going to work with 3 clients, but they're all going to have to pay me quite a large sum of money, because that's what they'll need to pay for me to put all my energy into it and do a really great job and give them the outcome they really want, rather than me think that I need to have 20 clients that I'll charge less because I don't think they'll pay that. And then they're not going to get the best work out of me, but I feel a bit better because they haven't had to pay loads of money. And that's a whole.
What I really like about like having this conversation out loud as well is it's actually what goes on in your head.
Of course.
So when you're talking about it in your own head, which is why we so value peer-to-peer and this interaction, but when you're in your head, you can get stuck in that loop for ages.
Yeah.
So you have an idea, something you want to put out in your business, or it could be the idea in your business, and then you can be there for ages just being like, what should I price it at, who's it actually for? Like, there's merit, isn't there, in these avatar things about like who's your client? I think once it goes to the level of like, where does she drink her coffee and what does she wear,
then it becomes too limiting because you get rid of people. So when I talk to people about, like, the very least you should have in your business available for people to buy from you are 3 things. One of them they technically don't pay for with money, but so there's 3 things. There should be what I call a result, the result, and then the free version of what you do, the taster, the slice of. So the free one, people do pay for that. They pay for it with their email address. And that's always really important to remember. So when people talk to you about, whatever language they use, they might use the kind of online marketing language of a lead magnet. But for me, it's a taster, it's a sampler, it's a let me try out what it's like to work with you. So you're actually doing that now because, if people want to get your emails and get updates and things like that, they have to pay with their email to get information. If you've got a checklist or a guide or one class that's, something that you offer, or even if it's to have a call with you to do some troubleshooting or whatever they want, like if they have to give you their email address, they have paid in their permission to engage now in an ongoing conversation with you. Obviously they can get a refund whenever they want by unsubscribing.
I think that's really important, because I had some conversations just this week, and Jodie was just on live a few minutes ago, but she was saying to me she never hands over her email address. Like, to her that's like gold, she just doesn't want that level of, I guess, noise within her business. She's already really, really busy. So there's that fear, isn't there? Once you hand over your email address, you're going to get suddenly bombarded.
But again, have some ownership around that. If it's something really valuable and you want it, people are asking you to pay for that with your email, you can unsubscribe immediately.
Oh my God, we're not going to start talking about GDPR.
No, we're not going to talk about GDPR because I've got better things to do in my life. But understand that when you're offering something of value, make it something of value. So I talk about when you've got something that you offer this transformation, this change, this result, this service, this product. So the very absolute full version of that is what I call the result. It's the full result of what you do. And if that takes 6 months and you have to move in with someone and make that work for them, or if it takes 4 hours, or it's every product that you've got, whatever that looks like, if you know this is what you have to do or give or create or whatever for that person to get the full result from your knowledge, know-how, experience, whatever, you have to have that available for sale. That's the result, the full result. But what you can also have for sale is what I call a result, which is a piece of that. Now, in some situations, that might be the first step in, a 5-step process. It might be, just solving one problem when the full result might be solving, 4 problems. It could be an overview of everything that you do, just so that you've educated people, so they have a full understanding. They just haven't then done the work. That could be a result. Might be, I don't understand this, so you help them understand it. Okay, now I understand it. You haven't actually created the result, but it's a result for that business owner or that individual to now understand how that works. So it's not a separate product, it's a piece of the full result that you can give them. And that serves a purpose in lots of ways, not least does it help you with sales conversations. So if you're talking to anyone, you should always talk to them about the full result. And this is something I know a lot of people struggle with, male and female business owners, is they don't want to go in big. They don't want to start big. They don't want to say, well, actually, thank you for explaining your problem to me. I can see what that is. This is actually a really big job. It's going to look like this. It's going to have all these elements to it. It's going to take this amount of time, or it's going to, cost this amount of money. You should always talk about that, because people should always know how you can fully solve their problem for them. Now, that's not to say that they might choose today only to have one piece of that problem solved. They might choose just to have, the overview or the introductory session, or, just start with something. First example that comes into my head is I've currently got loads of, I'm a bit of a hunch up when I type, so I've got loads of issues with my shoulders and neck and back at the moment. And I've been having a conversation, there's a new physio and bodyworks place at my gym. I want to go and see them. I know that they've already had a conversation with me about, this could be a series of treatments. We need to diagnose, and then we need to give you some things, and then we need to maintain it, and then we need to do that. So I know that the full result is going to be a series of treatments. However, I'm going to go and buy a result, which is the initial assessment, to understand more about it, to get the diagnosis, and then I'll make a decision as whether I want to carry on. Or it might be that I have that, and that's enough for now. And you can translate that into any business, but you should always have that bigger conversation first, because otherwise 2 things will happen. One, they might not know that you do that, and they'll buy the initial thing off you because that's the only thing you were brave enough to offer. And then the next thing you know, you turn around, they've gone and bought the big thing from someone else because they didn't know you did that. That happens all the time. Or you either lose your nerve, or you lose the rapport or the relationship and that openness and honesty with that client, because they then feel like they're being upsold. And personally, I'm not a fan of feeling like I'm being upsold to at the best of times.
It's the feeling, though, isn't it? What you're alluding to as well. You just said a lot in that 5 minutes. A lot of ground covered. We did warn people, didn't we, that we'd be out all over the place. No, it's fine. It's part of what I wanted people, when they're in on this conversation, to understand that the depth and the breadth of what you can be present to when you're talking with experienced business owners can be mind-blowing. But I think how Maya Angelou, wasn't there, it says, people will always remember how you make them feel. So not selling to people in of itself isn't a problem. If it's going to give them more transformation and it's going to take them deeper into solving that problem, then it's great. It's just they don't want to feel like it. They don't want to feel icky. They don't want to feel like they've been put under pressure or they're being manipulated. And so much of what we see is creating that tension, and it's having an adverse effect, because it's making women in particular be really more cautious, particularly if they've been in business for a while, more cautious about what they invest in, more cautious about who they trust. So on the one hand, that's really good, because we want them to make sensible buying decisions. But then if you hold yourself out to be a business owner of integrity who's got the experience that can help people, it's harder to be heard. It's harder to actually stand out in the noise. Now I went to just try and just check the comments, see who we've got on live.
Okay, cool.
I did want this to be like interactive, and two funny things. I'm actually not convinced that I haven't gone live on my personal timeline rather than in the group. So I'm like now enlightening all of my Facebook friends potentially around this conversation. But perhaps somebody that is live, listening to us live, can just tell us where it is. But we have got some comments, so I'm just trying to click into them. I know say tech. Did you manage to get them on your phone, Liz?
I did, but I just switched it on and it started talking at me while I was talking to you. So
yeah,
I was
just did that as
I need to silence you.
Yeah, I can hear you. Nobody needs us.
Yeah, no one needs to hear me talking twice.
Yeah, it's just really annoying because I really the idea of making this interactive was really, really important to me. And the fact that I'm a total tech
let me see if I can do it without sound.
I was going to say virgin, but I'm not a virgin about it anymore. I've actually popped my cherry. I might be like popping up. I'm going to
mute myself and quickly check the comments. That's a plan, isn't it?
Can you do that? Can you clever girl? But yeah, I think meandering around all these different like pods of conversation, they are really helpful, but it can also be completely overwhelming. And come back to like, particularly when you're in the early years of business, what I see is that you instantly find out that you're suddenly meant to be an expert in all these different areas. So you're meant to know stuff about marketing, stuff about sales, stuff about finance, stuff about legals, commercials, stuff about, stuff about stuff. Like that's before you've even figured out, I guess, all the confidence that goes with it and getting clarity on how you communicate your message and who your friends are, who you can trust. Like it's a very wide landscape of issues that we need to overcome. And again, the power of, I guess, the peer-to-peer community then is for people to say, yes, that's how I felt. Yes, I relate with what you're saying. I've been there. In fact, I am still there. The interesting thing about growing your business, and sometimes growth means, as we are at pains to say, not improving the financial metrics, but it can be scaling back your business and pivoting and changing direction and new level, new devil. So the reason I'm labouring that point is if people are listening to us and it feels like we're going all over the place and, they can't really keep up, I think that's almost like a nice analogy for what business is bloody like.
Yeah, and I think
oh my god, now I've got to learn that. I can't believe it. Why don't I know more about that?
But I think that's okay. So it's really interesting. So part of I have found a way now to get the comments. I've done the tech thing of putting my headphones in so the sound's not coming out. But I will read those in a second. But one of the things that I think is really interesting. So one of the businesses I'm currently involved in has a profiling tool, and it's about and I'm really enjoying it because I talk about doing your thing and what you're naturally brilliant at, and they talk about people working in their natural energy. And I was having a conversation yesterday where so much is about people being engaged in what you're doing and how can we get more engaged and how can we follow your passion, and that kind of comes on from the whole strengths and weaknesses, and we should improve our weaknesses. Like you joke about being weak at tech, and I'm just like, who cares? That's not your thing. Like, get someone else to do it, or don't worry about it. Be okay that it's not your thing because you're brilliant at something else. And I think it's very easy when you're in business to start beating yourself up about, oh, I can't do this and I don't know how to do that. And you're like, but that's not your thing.
The struggle is real. And I think you're saying that from a place of experience. And I know, because you're one of my bestest friends, but I know that you've had your own immersion in exactly that. And take the tech as the example. For me, I've had lots of like dalliances into trying to get people to help me with that, and it's not worked. And I gave Amy such a big shout out at the start of the week. She's only been being a tech VA for me for less than a month, but she's literally transformed my life, and she's doing an amazing job for me, enabling me to be brilliant at what I can be brilliant at. And, lifting me up. And I think that's what we all want to do when we're in business. That's the feedback I get from my clients, that people go, well, oh my God, Rachel, you're amazing. You just filled the gap in the knowledge that I didn't have, or you made me feel a certain way that empowered me to move forward. And when we work together, and pool these skills and pool these resources. And you know, because I've been talking about the greenhouse for a long time, but my vision for the greenhouse is about creating that network of trusted business owners, not for like, you know, some of that weird network referral stuff that some of the networks does, but that as a byproduct, there are then trusted people that you get to know, that you know you can turn to when you need help.
And there is, you know, it's funny. I was speaking to, I was at an event yesterday, and I was speaking to someone, and we were talking about business and all the things you need to do, and we got onto the topic of like, and this is, I appreciate some people are going, no, it's not, but business is really simple, and it's also really easy to make it very complicated. So this person I was speaking to, I think they had a 3 million turnover business, and their entire business is on, they're like, it's just written on one sheet of A4. And I was like, oh, that makes me so happy. Now, obviously, there are more things you can do, but that's the thing that so many of us get sidetracked. There's so much shiny stuff. There's so much noise. There's so many people telling you what's right and what's wrong. And it does my absolute head in, because it's your business. Like, if you want to run your business by going, you know, by never leaving the house and doing everything online, amazing, fill your boots. Like, there are ways to do that are incredible and will work for you. You know, find the places you want to hang out online where you find those ideal clients and you find great people and have great conversations. Or if you want to go out every day, or you want to host your own groups, or you want, like, the thing with marketing is most of it works. But if you try and do all of it all at the same time, unless you've got massive team or massive budget, it probably won't all work.
And we danced with this a little bit earlier in the week about having patience and sticking with something for long enough to check whether it is working, and not giving up, and not and I mean, just with that strategy, rather, I don't want people to give up on their businesses full stop, but, you know, trying a strategy and then shifting to, I've definitely done that in the past, because I'm used to getting instant results with things. Like, that's what corporate life taught me, really. You know, like, get things
But in corporate life, you had a massive team and a big, you know, marketing budget and all sorts of things, and a name and a brand and all those things behind you. And
also, have a quick look into these comments, Luce, because we've only got about 5 minutes left. Time as ever when I'm jibber jabbering with you. I hope people have found it interesting. I think, you know, we think we're incredibly interesting, don't we? But, you know, the rest of the world, the rest of my Facebook land probably does not agree.
So there's one comment here about referrals and word of mouth, but we have to be in the online space. So referrals and word of mouth you can still do that online. You can have, you know, relationships with people, you know, start user groups, you know, have people who are people that are in your network, like connect with them online, create groups for them, or send messages to them, or do it via email and ask people to like, send them reminders, have automated things set up. You don't have to do that in line. The thing about referrals and word of mouth there are ways to assist that by reminding people to do it, literally just doing that, like adding it on to the end of emails, or having it on your email signature, or you know, having opportunities to go, I'm doing this week, do you want to send anyone along to this, or host an event and get people to bring a friend. And there are ways of using marketing to make referrals and word of mouth work better. But yeah, it still does work. Like,
for me, I don't see that there's any differentiation. If anything, the word of mouth can be much more powerful online, because you've got infinite reach on infinite platforms. It's actually slower with offline businesses, potentially, because you're relying on people to physically have conversations. Like, technology is a massive enabler of recommendation.
But for a start, it's saved me from, you know, going up north today.
Oh, but you do love to come up north.
I do.
Where it all happens. It's a bit colder. So anything else that we want to look at? Because there was a few comments down in the box. I just couldn't see them.
Yeah, no.
Are they from people saying, Rachel, why are you doing this?
And the cost conversation and fear of rejection and someone not seeing your value. That's really interesting as well, because I think so much of what you learn in business, and it could just be a getting older thing, I have to be honest, but I like to think it's through wisdom of being in business for a long time, is really sticking to what you're brilliant at. You know, there are so many little mini niches and nuances. You're not going to be right for everyone. You don't have to be. Be very clear about what you offer and what you don't. And don't be afraid to go, no, you're absolutely right. That person is much cheaper than me. Or you're absolutely right. That person, you know, is more experienced than me or does do this differently. And I am not the same, but this is what I am and this is what I do, or this is how our business runs, or this is what we focus on. And don't deviate from that too much, because that's when you will dilute the results you'll get as well. When you don't stick to what you're brilliant at, you know, we talked about this right at the beginning, you end up doing a quite good job, but then that is going to stop you getting referrals.
I can't actually believe we've ended up here as we bring our conversation to a close, because unfortunately I'm very aware that what you just described in the last minute is probably something that most women in business struggle with more than anything else. You know, and we dance around talking about the imposter syndrome and building our confidence. When we looked at the stats earlier in the week, we know that the huge barrier to success for women in business is actually putting their hand up and saying, I deserve a seat at this table, here's my expertise. Whereas, hilarious stats, but you know, the majority of men are shown that they're not shy to come forward. They have more of an attitude of like, well, I don't know, but I'll work it out when I get there. And that was demonstrated by stats in corporate job applications as well, that women would look at the essentials and think, well, I haven't got all of those, therefore I won't apply. Whereas men would be like, oh, I've got half, 60%. Yeah, get myself in there. I'll maybe blag it through. Now, we're generalizing, but I am pulling that from stats. And I think when that transfers into business, it's a real struggle. Like, for me, it's been a real personal struggle around, I know I've got all this valuable expertise and experience, but I've got also a really high level of humility about, I don't like to shout out about it. And I don't like to, and you're always like pushing me over the trenches kind of things with, you know, a limited degree of success. So I don't want to finish the conversation there, but we are going to have to bring it to a close, and perhaps it's one we need to follow on, because you like made it sound almost too easy to kind of package it up and put yourself out there, and I just know that many women and men, I'm sure, struggle with that, and we have to find a way to help each other, to champion and cheerlead and really own those skills and talents which are completely unique. Like, we all have our thing, don't we?
Yeah, we do. We all have something that we're naturally very good at. And I think, for me, the easiest way to demonstrate that is to pay attention to what it is. You know, pay attention to the result. When you get your best results, what are those clients? What was the relationship like? What did you do? So don't just make it about you. Make it about how you work with other people, so that you can, you know, if it helps you to stand and go, I'm really good at this, you can add to that, you know, I'm really good at this when I know I'm working in partnership with a client, or I find a client who understands that, you know, I'm going to bring this and they're going to bring that, and we're going to create this great result together. So if it helps you to be clearer about the result you get, don't make it just about you.
Yes. Yeah, that's music to my ears. And I think that's the other huge difficulty, that let's talk about that as the week goes on, because it is lonely running business on your own, and we do end up like kind of taking the weight of it all, and like you put this big backpack on and you try and carry it out and prove everything. And like, collaboration is huge for me, you know that. And the more as women that we come together and collaborate and bring our ideas through collectively, we're going to get confidence just from having the team, like a team approach. Competition, you know, can be healthy, but actually collaboration is so much stronger, and it's massively helpful.
But also, if you believe you're the only person that does what you do exactly the way that you do it, there technically isn't any competition.
Yeah, oh, absolutely. But then if you want to have more impact, perhaps, like, I guess, you know, we're talking in the abstract really, but taking your unique set of skills that, you know, solves that problem, and then somebody else's unique set that solves it, and then greater impact.
Correct.
And we haven't touched upon, and perhaps we should just, in the last couple of minutes, because it's relevant to that when you set up in your business, you haven't got the benefit of being in like a boardroom and going and asking the questions and having people from those other expertises and disciplines. So me and you have both in our corporate career sat in boardrooms, been challenged, been held to account, been forced to report on the good, the bad and the ugly. Like, you can hide that in business. So we came up with this cool idea, didn't we? Like, we did. Really super cool, called the boardroom. The idea being that business owners can then come and join a table on a monthly basis, twice monthly, whatever works from a frequency perspective, and be held to account and be challenged by a peer group as if it were a boardroom. And we thought this boardroom brand was so cool because it talks to the broadness and the diversity and the different perspectives. We mean diversity both, gender, which is part of what we've been talking about this week, celebrating women a bit. The boardroom is for everybody, isn't it? Yeah. From whatever background, whatever perspective. Me and you are going to be launching that soon. Great example of a collaborative project.
Yeah. Completely, and that's born out of, we joked earlier about, you are an Archner who we jokingly call ourselves Charlie's Angels, but we're like this perfect, it's not a joke, it's a perfect little Venn diagram where if any of us have got a new business idea or we're having a challenge in business, we're like the kind of three stools where we know you'll have that amazing kind of commercial, just that real kind of facts-based commercial inside and know-how of like, how is this actually going to work? Then I always come up with the kind of marketing and sales and go to market kind of I was going to say objections then, but questions, and then Archner's there with her her kind of financial aspect and how's the cash flow going to work on that and how's the money, and literally you put any business idea through those three areas straight away without even adding other expertise in, and you get both you and Archner will come up with things that I would never have thought of.
But when I was in corporate, that's how things got signed off. So we referred to it as delegation of authority, DOA, and before a contract got signed off, it had to be signed by me as a commercial director, signed by the financial director, and signed by the operations who held the budget. It makes perfect commercial sense. When you're running your own business, it's like
everything's a good idea.
Your own stuff off. Yeah, sounds a great idea.
Everything's a good idea.
It's like talking to yourself. So yeah, this concept of the boardroom that we brought together was to try and fix that problem. So you can bring a challenge or bring an idea and get other perspectives. And you still want to go internal, like ultimately. Of
course, at the end of the day, it's your business and you do what you want, which is also a really key point. But you just, you get stuck in your way of thinking, or you've only got your area of expertise. And it doesn't even have to be necessarily from experience. It could be that someone else has read this book, or someone else heard this talk, or someone else had a client who did this, or it doesn't even have to be your own personal experience. So if you haven't been in business for years and years and years, you've still got commercial experience just from paying attention and just bringing that other perspective that sometimes you just don't see when you're in it. You just don't.
Your blind spots. I'd mentioned that on the post when I introduced you. I said, it's just brilliant to have someone in your life, or ideally more than one person, a peer group that can then show you those blind spots, because you just can't see what's beyond the end of your nose sometimes when you're deep in your business. Right, well, darling, I think I'm going to be respectful to people's time and bring this conversation to a close, because otherwise me and you could just jam on all day. We love talking business, don't we? It's so funny.
Oh, we do.
I do class you as one of my best friends, but we don't tend to talk about our personal stuff that much. We talk a lot about our business and what we're doing in our business, and I think that's also like a real beautiful part of our friendship, because actually it's such an important part of who we are. You spend whatever percentage of time in your business, and that's also about who you are as a person and what you stand for and what your ideals are. And I know you know this, but I so value your friendship. Really glad and happy that we met. And thank you for being a stalker. Yeah, you haven't got rid of me yet. I am a full-on stalker. Like most stalkers, you've taken out an injunction against me now. You've obviously been.
I decided you could be quite useful.
A good lawyer to help you with that.
Yeah, you turned out to be quite useful.
Thank you very much. But I'm going to love you and leave you. I hope people listening on this conversation got value, and we'd love to hear from you. I would say in the group, but it does look suspiciously like I put this live on my Facebook page, so I'm going to have to fix that.
It'll be fine, we can move it over.
Bless me. I am just a tech loon. It's one way to get over visibility fear, isn't it? Just fuck it up. Okay, lots of love, Lucy, and I'll see you soon, my darling.
Yeah.
Thank you everyone that's joined us live, and it is a celebration this week in the group, but I think we have to celebrate making mistakes once in a while as well.
It's quite normal.
Lots of love, my darling.
Yeah.
Bye.
Bye.